Hello, YouTube. How you guys doing? I know no one's here yet, but if you do happen to stop by, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section there, and I will try to get to you during the session. I usually start off by picking a topic and kind of just discussing it for a while, and as people join in and start watching and listening, they can leave comments and everything. So hopefully everybody can hear me. Okay, we'll just leave it like that. I don't know. I'm not getting like a little bounce on my microphone. So hopefully it's all coming through clearly. Today we're going to talk about the trend of pacting. I've noticed that in recent years, everybody just wants to make a pact with a demon. They have a problem. They want to make a pact about it. And they use pacts for everything. Every single thing. And it kind of drives me nuts. I'll be honest with you. It's a bit weird. Oh, good. I'm glad you guys can hear me. Yay. Thank you. Thank you, Lucia. Hi there, Aaron and Saturn. Good to see you guys. So I noticed this. I had this guy write to me, and he was telling me about how he was like, he had a pact going with this demon for that, and another pact going here, and another pact going here. And I'm like, now, wait a minute. Why are you writing all of these pacts? I was brought up to believe that you only used in the sense of a pact for something big. So a pact is kind of like, it's almost like a dedication in a way. Like I will, dedicate, part of my life to doing this thing in exchange for this thing. And I don't see, I don't see why it's that tit for tat. That's what it is. It's that tit for tat. It's kind of like people pelting the demons with offerings for everything. And offerings are great, but I think people maybe overuse them. And I think a lot of that comes from like Santeria and Voodoo and religions like that, where that's very normal. You basically pay the spirit for the help that they're giving you. And in a way, I suppose you kind of do that anyway, because if you're working with a demon, you're at least providing them your undivided attention and your commitment to the work, the self-work, and the things that you need to do in order to make what you want to happen. So, I mean, that's any type of magic. You're not only throwing the intent out there, but you're bringing in external influences to help influence that situation to your favor. And in that sense, I mean, the demonic would obviously expect that you are willing to at least, maybe offer a drop of your blood. If it's that important to you, would you give up a drop of your blood for that? But instead, people are just like, I'll give them a beer and a sandwich, and and hopefully that's enough. Okay, here's what I want. Here's what I'm going to give you. It's like, here's $5. Go do this, and then walk away. That's not how things work. So with pacts, it's kind of the same thing. People will be like, I'll give you my firstborn. I actually have had somebody send me an email like that. I offered my firstborn child. I'm like, why would you do something like that? That's insane. Demons aren't, they're not running around collecting souls. I'm sorry, they're not. I have yet to run across a soul collecting demon. They have no use for that. I mean, we have this erroneous impression that demons are motivated by the same things we are, that spirits in general are motivated by the same things we are, and they're not. I mean, unless you're dealing with perhaps a tethered spirit of a deceased human being who has the mindset still of a physical being, then you're not going to get that. These spirits have never been physical. They don't have the same motivations. They don't have the same sexual impulses but unfortunately, as humans, that's how we relate to things. We like, this is like this. So we relate to things like that. We have to put it in that mindset to where we can wrap our heads around it, because it's very difficult for us to fathom a different motivation, a different state of existence that isn't a physical existence. So, hi, Sebastian. I'm happy you caught me too. Yay. So, I mean, offerings, offerings can be anything. Offerings can be your time. Okay. You can say, I'm going to dedicate time to this. Or, in my case, I have occasionally said, I'm going to dedicate my life to the demonic, and I'm going to help educate other people by writing books, by doing videos. But those weren't pacts specifically made with a specific demon. That was a choice I made. And that's basically the choice to do the work. Because as I'm sharing with everybody else, I am learning a great deal. I'm constantly learning new things. You'll never stop learning. That's for sure. And the more you learn, the more you realize you just have no clue about certain things. So, and it's okay to say, I don't know. So there are a lot of things I don't know. I have theories. I have theories that seem to be proven by my experience, but do I know 100% that I am right? I mean, not really. I just know that what I'm doing works, and the information I'm sharing with you has been proven to me through my own experience. And I have met people who are like, you know what? Your experience does not match mine, so I disagree with you. And that's okay. That's to be expected. That's how it should be. And because we do create our own realities. So as far as pacts go, save that for the big stuff. Like, if you want to get into a career in broadcasting, for example, and say you want to be on the local news or maybe even the national news as an anchor, that's a pretty big goal. You might want to sit down and actually write out a pact for that. But as far as like pacting for, okay, so I want to get that $2 an hour raise, and I want to, be able to go to Disneyland next year with my family, and just stuff like that. You don't need to write a pact for that. You can do magic to that purpose and maybe bring in demonic energy on that. But consider, if you're going to give something like a couple drops of blood, or your time and attention. Your time and attention is worth a great deal to the demonic. They want to work with people who actually want to improve and ascend their consciousness. That is more along their motivation than, saying, yeah, you know what? I'd really like some of those grapes over there. Oh, I'd really like a pact. I'd like your firstborn. That just doesn't happen. So anyway, I don't know why that trend has gotten so big. And I think it has a lot to do with people pull into their personal practice things from other traditions. And so you see a lot of people start pulling in stuff from the Afro-Caribbean religions, where there is a tit for tat when you're working with spirits. You do give an offering in exchange for something else. You do, promise to do a specific thing in order to get what you want, but you don't always need to do that. I mean, as long as you're giving it your time and attention, and giving blood isn't so much for their benefit, but so they can see how serious you are about it. Are you willing to shed a few drops of blood for what you want? If you're not willing to suffer a pinprick of pain for what you want, do you really want it? I mean, that's the question you have to ask yourself. So there are a lot of different methods. And I guess you could throw a pact at every situation. I just think it's overkill, personally. There are situations and instances where, that's fine. I don't see that as a problem. But when you're doing it for every little thing, yeah, you might want to rethink that. And just because, an actual pact is a very big commitment, because you have to uphold your end of the bargain too. If you're going to work that way. And if you're in that mindset and that's your intent and that's how you think, you're going to create that reality for yourself. So what you think and what you believe will greatly affect your magic and how you work with demons. If you think you're going to have a bad experience with a demon, you might have one, because it's a self-fulfilled prophecy. You bring that on yourself. It's your fear that a bad thing's going to happen. You fear it, you build up all that anxiety, and then you manifest it for yourself. So remember, the words have power, thoughts have power, and the things we say and do actually will, and the things we think will actually affect our magic, and sometimes bring some of that negativity back on us. So you do have to remember that. Let's see. Do we have any questions here? Yeah, Lucia, exactly. It's like, I think I've done like one specific large pact um, over the years, and I just don't work that way. So, do I pronounce that Abhaya Berry? Um, Thank you. I appreciate you reading the books, and I'm hoping that they're helping you. So, my whole intention in writing the books I write is to inspire people and to inform them and to maybe give them a different perspective. Now, not everyone's going to agree with me. They're going to go through my books and go, yeah, this is crap. And they're going to say, yeah, that doesn't work for me. And that's cool. But I've still taught you something. Even if you don't like what I write, I've still taught you something, and that is that my methods don't work for you. And I still think that's a good thing. I've still accomplished what I set out to do, is to help you along your path. Um, so yes, okay, battling past conditioning related to the demonic. That's actually, I think that's a really big part of the self work that we all do. Is going through and changing, reprogramming the way we think about things. That can take a lot of time. For some people, they start earlier in life, and it becomes a lot easier because you're not as conditioned. I started my journey into the occult and demonic magic and demonolatry at the age of 12. And I even had some ideas before that, but I didn't really start like getting into it and start doing like serious study until I was able to get to bigger libraries and get into, the adult library section. Um, so I think a lot of that really depends on what you've been conditioned to believe. And I think the harder you've been conditioned, like if you grew up in like a very strict Christian household or a strict Muslim household or whatever, you're going to have a harder time shaking that programming, because you're always going to have that guilt or that fear because it's been ingrained in you from such a young age. Whereas I was kind of brought up Jack Christian. I kind of like knew what the Catholics believed. I had like this completely crazy evangelical aunt who watched the 700 Club. She was just a complete nutball. We loved her, but oh yeah, she was out there. Um, and she was the type who if she could get you to an exorcism, she totally would. She thought everybody was evil, and she prayed for people like constantly. It was just crazy. So there are a lot of different things. A lot of different things in my past that made it to where I wasn't as harshly conditioned as some people. Because if you grew up in a household where that religious teaching was beaten into you every single day, it's going to take longer for you to get past that. And one of the things that really did help me, of all the crazy things, was reading the Satanic Bible when I was 15 years old. And it really it basically affirmed a lot of the stuff I'd been thinking over the years. And I was like, yeah. And then once you get past that, then you can go further back into the history of Christianity and where it all came from. And then when you start seeing that a lot of older sources, Christianity borrowed from a lot of older sources. There's some original material in there, but that's usually what happened in the past. You have the victors write the history. You know what I'm saying? So when you have like two societies or two cultures that are warring, the one that wins rewrites the history and changes how everything is. And sometimes they'll take stuff from that previous culture and wrap it in to make the transition for the other people a lot easier. So, you'll find that in a lot of different cultures. So go ahead and, think about that. But I would say in order to get rid of that conditioning, you have to examine why you believe the way you believe. Is there any proof that tells you you should believe the way you believe, other than your own fear and your own self-manifestation of those fears? And you really have to just work at it and work at reprogramming yourself and tell yourself, if I do this, I'm not going to be I'm not going to be smote. I'm not going to lose my soul. I'm not going to, be cast into a place called hell. I mean, my aunt, my crazy religious aunt, used to say when I was a kid, hell is a volcano, and once you're going to be stuck in there with all this lava, and they're going to put a big boulder at the top of this volcano so you can never get out. I mean, how ridiculous is that? Just think about the imagery. And also, if you find out, if you really realize, a lot of our hell mythology comes from Milton's Paradise Lost and Dante's Inferno, which are both fictional works. They were works of fiction. If you haven't read either of those novels yet, you really should, because you'll see where a lot of our hell mythology came from. And it's just, it's fun as fiction, but as reality, it's like, yeah, okay. I kind of like the Pope before the current one actually said that hell is a state of existence, that it's like a self-made state of existence. And I thought that was a rather interesting and philosophical way to put it, because if you think about it, if you are constantly worried about being bad and being punished for what you do here, it's like your entire life with Christianity is like living so you can die and go to heaven, as opposed to going to hell. What kind of an existence is that? It's like the ultimate death cult, because all you're doing is worrying about what's going to happen when you die. You're not living. So think about those things when you're trying to deprogram yourself. And it could take years. It could take, some people, they'll read something and it'll just click, and they've kind of broken that conditioning, and then they can slowly work on maybe some smaller things. I know a lot of people who still deal with their Catholic guilt, because Catholic is like the Catholicism is like the ultimate guilt religion. You're guilty for everything. You're guilty for having sexual feelings, for not wanting to go do something with somebody else because you want to have some you time. You feel guilty for everything. You apologize for everything. It's crazy. So these are things you got to stop and realize what you're doing, why you're reacting the way you're reacting, and try to just break those patterns. Find those patterns that aren't serving you, and then break them and get rid of them. And that can take some time and some personal work. Okay, I'll shut up about that now, because we've got like a whole list going on here. Any suggestions to opening up your senses to communicate with spirits? You know what? I believe that meditation is the core practice for all of that. You need to learn how to quiet your mind. The problem is the spirits are always talking. It's a matter of whether or not we're listening, whether or not we are so wrapped up in all of the things that we have going on, all of the worries and concerns we have about the people around us, the people we care about, all of the things we want to do. And so you have a very busy mind, especially in this day and age. People have very, very busy minds. I mean, we're constantly attached to our phones. We're constantly plugged into the rest of the world. There's just all of these things that you have to worry about. So it's really hard to just quiet the mind and live in the moment. Practice focusing on your breath. So when you're meditating, you're not really not thinking about anything, because that's practically impossible. You're focusing on being in the moment. So a lot of people will focus on their breathing, because breathing is in the moment. So if you just kind of relax and breathe and focus on your breath, you're going to get to a point where then you can like have thoughts and think about all the things you're worried about, and you can observe those thoughts as opposed to reacting to them, because we are conditioned to react to our thoughts. Now, not everybody does this. Some people are a lot better at not reacting to their thoughts than others, but learning how to just kind of observe our thoughts and be in the moment will actually help you go a long way to helping you communicate with the spirits, because you'll start hearing them more once you just quiet your mind and listen and pose the question. Just sit there as you're meditating, and about 10 minutes in, shift your focus to maybe a sigil or a specific demonic N, whatever it is. Shift your focus to that. Take a few deep breaths, focus on what you want to know, and just listen. Try that. That can sometimes help. So let's see. I'm going to Oh, Sebastian's comment was held for sometimes. Let's see. It says, what happens when you break a pact with a demon? Will a demon fuck you up or refuse to work with you in the future? So here's the thing about a pact. The person you hurt most when you break a pact is you. So especially if you're offering things like your firstborn child, that can create a lot of anxiety and stress if you made a pact like that and then you didn't hold up your end of the bargain, because then you basically bring that stress on yourself. Um, so you got to be really careful with that. If you're going to make a pact, make sure you hold up to your end of the bargain, because the first of all, you're letting yourself down. And yes, demons will often, it depends whether or not the demon will fuck you up. I can't say they won't, because sometimes they might be like, okay, you know what, you need to be taught a lesson about maybe having a bit more self-control, or some discipline. You maybe need a little more discipline. And so when they knock you down like that, and that's actually next month's topic is, will demons lie or specifically hurt you? It's when they do stuff like that, it's not in malice, it's to teach you something. Demons are lesson teachers. That is like one of the biggest things that you have to remember. If you ask for something and they knock you on your butt, stop and go, okay, why did they knock me on my butt? And it wasn't just to be mean or to be cruel or because they're evil. It was because, hey, you probably needed that. You needed to be shown what you're doing wrong and why. And when you screw up and you start looking around, looking at all those circumstances surrounding that, you're going to figure out what you screwed up on. But you have to be able to criticize yourself without cutting yourself down, because you don't want to say, oh, I'm no good, I'm terrible, blah, blah, blah. And then, throw yourself into a stalemate where you're not moving forward or growing as a person. You need to stop and look at it and say, okay, I screwed up, but today is a new day. I'm going to make different decisions. I'm going to actually do the things I say I'm going to do. It's just like setting any goal. If you could continually break your word with yourself and with the demonic are like your support staff in this. The pact you're actually making, the deal you're actually making, is more with yourself than with them. They're just there to kind of help hold you accountable to what you said you were going to do. So that's why, with a pact, it's better to say, I will work hard, I will study hard, I will give time and attention to this thing so that I can have this thing over here. And then the demons will hold you accountable to that. Generally, though, I mean, if it's like, yeah, it's you give up your firstborn or something completely ridiculous, they're just going to be like, yeah, whatever. And then, yes, they will ignore you. They'll just put you on ignore. They might, on the proverbial spirit human Facebook, they'll put you on block. So that's kind of what happens when you break a pact. Let's see. So Lucia said that Belial took away her that fear and the guilt from your upbringing, I'm assuming. Yeah, sometimes when you work with demons, they can actually help you overcome that ingrained childhood indoctrination. So let's see. Where does your interest in the occult first appear from, and where? And what was the first to trigger your interest? Okay, so interestingly enough, I have always been able to communicate with spirits. And that was probably my first inkling that I was maybe different from other kids, because I had these, and I know everyone's like, oh, invisible friends. A lot of kids have invisible friends, but mine would actually visit me at night in my room. And when I was about probably about 6-ish, I actually had a dark hooded figure come out of my closet and stand next to my bed and watch over me for a while. And they'd come in at night and sit at the end of my bed and tell me stories. So just really interesting things like that I always wondered, like, why did that happen? And I had other supernatural experiences when I was all the way through until I was about 8-9 years old. And then I started kind of testing those things just to see if that experience was a dream, if I was just imagining it, if I was just, because I was a very imaginative child. And so I started testing things because I've always been an experimenter. I've always wanted to know why things work the way they work. Even when I was a child, my parents wouldn't buy me dolls. I pulled them apart to see how they worked. Like I had one of those dolls that peed, and I pulled it apart because I was like, how does this work? I wasn't so much interested in the doll. I was interested in the mechanics of the doll. So I'm kind of the same way with working with spirits and magic and all of that. So I pull things apart and kind of try to break it down and see how it works. So that's exactly that's kind of how my interest started. Is I had all the series of supernatural experiences from a young age, and by the time I was 12, I actually had access to a library where I could find some answers. So we had divination books. We had like stuff about palm reading and cards and numerology, and I kind of started there. And I was about 12 years old. And it just kind of went from there. You start with divination and everything, and then you go, and I was curious about spirit communication because I'd always been able to see and speak with spirits. And then I kind of went into that, and then that just kind of led to magic, and it just kind of, dominoed from there. So let's see. Abhaya Berry says, thank you. I still battle with my conditioning, but as I open up, I feel a strong connection that completely blows away my expectations. Yes. And it'll come, but it'll come maybe in pieces or small parts, and it'll eventually build to where one day you'll wake up and you'll be like, that conditioning is not affecting me as much as it once was. It's hard to say that it will eventually be gone. I mean, I had some, probably through my mid-20s, I still had some thoughts like, well, I wonder if, and then now as an adult, I just have no connection with the whole Christianity thing. So, excuse me. I should have brought water in here and I didn't. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah. The Christian idea of heaven is hell for me. Yeah, exactly. I mean, who wants to live in with no conflict, no problems to solve? Because as physical beings, that's something I think a lot, excuse me, a lot of people are problem solvers. They like to have something they need to solve or a goal that they need to shoot for. Nobody wants like a completely boring humdrum life with absolutely no challenge to it. That's very difficult. I mean, maybe we'll all feel differently, once we've passed beyond the veil, but who's to say? I haven't died and lived to tell about it. So, excuse me. Let's see. Neophyte says, the ultimate death cult. Well, they do worship an ancient tribal war god that is an aspect of Saturn. So technically, yeah, it's a death cult. Well, okay, there you go. What is the best innovation technique? I've seen some people have suggested the triangle, not to trap the spirit, but to give them a place to manifest. I agree with that. So the triangle of art, I wonder if I have it in here. Oh, I don't think I do. I was going to show you guys anyway, if you look at the triangle of art, so first of all, those, the different God names around that triangle, you can modify that. Excuse me. I'm telling you, I should have brought water in here. Hold on. Maybe I do have it. Give me just a second I need to clean my office. It's a complete mess right now. Okay. Oh, come here, you bastard. Okay, so I don't have the mirror on this, and this is like one of my makeshift triangles. I make them out of cardboard, or at least poster board. And because I change them. I like to experiment. I like to do different things. So one of my triangle of arts has Leviathan, Thoth, Atem, and Amun-Ra around the edges. And I do specifically use the triangle as a focal point. But in this circle, I put a scrying mirror. And I actually have Velcro on the back to attach it to my scrying mirror. I do this with all of my triangles. The other ones are out in the temple right now. So anyway, so you have a black scrying mirror in that center. That black circle in the center is a scrying mirror. And of course, you move this around your circle, specifically to correspond with the elemental point or quadrant for the demon that you're trying to bring into the scrying mirror. So if you look at like all of the old ceremonial magic rituals, a lot of them are actually scrying rituals. They're communication rituals, so you can communicate with the demonic. A lot of people don't realize that. It's not so much manifesting them just to manifest them, it's to actually have a conversation with them. So yes, pulling all of these demonic names around the triangle is to help keep the energy contained in one spot so you get a strong signal and you're going to get strong communication. It's to build that manifestation, that focal point. So yeah, that's exactly what I think. So as far as that goes, I hope that helps. Thank you. You're amazing too for asking such a great question. Do I have any tips on using the pendulum? Pendulums are really quite cool. Hold on a minute. I had a pendulum here just a second ago. I swear my magical tools are like everywhere and they always seem to grow feet and walk away, but I keep them close by because I'm constantly using the dang things, or, discussing with people different things, and I keep them around to actually demonstrate. Oh, seriously, you've got to be kidding me. I had like 3 of them here the day before yesterday, and I don't now. Oh, speaking of scrying boards, new scrying board, yay. This is, excuse me, the Astaroth pendulum board. And it's got the sigil of Astaroth. I'm coming up with a more colorful one. There's going to be a more colorful one. Some people didn't like the dark ones. I prefer my magical tools to be dark, just because they're not distracting that way. But, it has yes, no, maybe. And you can like create your own boards and there's all sorts of different ways to set them up. But basically, when you're holding, excuse me, some people will use like an actual stand to hold the pendulum, so they're not holding it, so that they can help them, keep themselves from like moving. But if you just hold it, seriously, hold on a minute. I know I have a pendulum here somewhere. Oh, here we are. Pendulum. Here it is. And this is another reason I need to clean my office. I started that project a few years ago, and being someone who's crafty and constantly doing so many different things, it just becomes a mess. So, so here you have your standard pendulum. One of the good ways to hold it is just like this, where this piece right here, that little ball, just stands right in there. You just got to be able to hold your hand steady. If you can hold your hand steady, it'll like stop moving. You're always going to get a little bit of movement. Nobody can hold their hand that still. But if you do have a problem with that, you can get a stand. You can also, there's like all sorts of different stands you can buy, or you could probably make your own. Do something with a hanger, I imagine. I've never tried that, but the thing is you hold it. Let me see if I can get this up high enough. You hold it like midpoint on your board, and it'll sit there. Some people hold it like this too. It's entirely up to you. And then if you say, hello, is there anybody here? And it is actually moving to yes. So that's, we'll just go with that. So if you are having problems holding it, find something to hold it over the board or over your piece of paper or whatever you're using. And then, of course, you stop and ask it baseline questions and, make sure that it's accurate and everything with the baseline questions. And then you can go on into your session from there. Excuse me. So the best thing is if you have a steady hand, that's great. If not, use a stand. Some people get that, some people don't. Scrying, or the pendulum, is one of those tools that most people can use pretty effectively. So, because it doesn't require, the clairaudience, clairsentience. Everybody has clairsentience to some degree, but it doesn't require being able to hear or actually see spirits. So, clairvoyance or anything like that. So, it's a lot easier for people sometimes than, say, scrying. So, let's see, what else? Zozo pissed me off by showing up when I made a makeshift spirit board with my pendulum. Sorry, I'm reading people's comments. So that was Lucia Faye that said that. Sebastian says right now that's his only tool for communicating, and that's okay. So yeah, just work with it. Try different things, but make sure you have those baseline questions so first of all, if you're not using like an existing board, let the pendulum tell you which way's yes, which way's no, and then just work from there. So that's what the baseline questions are for, to figure out which way things are swinging, which swing is a yes, which one's a maybe, which one's a no. So you would ask questions, obviously, that you already knew the answers to for that. Yeah, yes, no questions are a lot easier. You can use an actual spirit board for that, but the problem with that is that can start getting really dubious, because you're dealing with all these letters and all these numbers, plus yes, plus no, plus a maybe, and it's like, eh. So stick with yes, no if you can. Let's see. So Abhaya is asking, how do you know when using a pendulum that you are speaking to a specific spirit? We are actually going to talk about discernment. This whole series that I'm doing this year is basically about belief, practice, philosophies, theory, that sort of thing. So next month in May is Will Demons Lie or Hurt You, and Why? And 6 is Discernment. Is it you or a demon, and how can you tell? So learning discernment is kind of difficult at first when you're first starting out, because a lot of the time you'll notice, like, and you probably see this in online groups, is people will have conversations with demons, and the demons will always agree with them. But demons have the same opinions they do about everything, and demons will pick sides in fights. And that is really not true. A real demon, if they think you're being a dumbass, is going to be like, yeah, no. They're going to tell you. They're not going to agree with you all the time. They're not going to tell you you're wonderful and perfect and not flawed. They are going to point out your shit. It's going to be like a really good friend that points out all your crap and makes you own it. So your higher self will just give you really good advice, but learning all of the different variations. Is this my wishful thinking? Is this my higher self trying to do what's best for me? Or is this a demon who's trying to teach me something? Is this a demon trying to give me good advice? And that gets really, really iffy. For me, I can feel the energy change in a room when a demon comes in. And then, of course, the follow-up with that commentary. And a lot of times demons will tell you things that are true that you didn't know. They will never tell you to hurt yourself or somebody else. They're not going to pick sides in fights. They're not going to, they will make you look at your side of what you did too, to say, it takes two to tango. So there are a lot of distinguishing factors that will help you decide if it's a demon that you're talking to, or if it's just your own wishful thinking. And oftentimes, like with your higher self, you're not going to get that external energy source coming in. But if you have developed the art of listening and you're good at filling out energy, and you've done your energy work practice, you're going to be able to tell when there's a spirit in the room and it's not you. And now here's the thing. Not all spirits are good either. Not all of them. There are spirits that will masquerade as demons. So you do have to be careful of that as well. But that's why we say, spirits like that, tend to be a bit more malevolent and want to lie to you and be harmful because they're mischief makers. That's kind of their thing. And they may be negative energy feeders. So they want to cause stress, anxiety, fear, and worry within you so that they can feed off of that energy. So they will lie to you for that reason. And it's not, I guess it's really not so much to be nefarious. It's just so they can feed. So you kind of got to be careful of that too. If a demon, a spirit posing as a demon, is telling you all sorts of horrible things or causing a stressful, horrible emotional reaction in you, then chances are it could be a feeder, and you got to be careful of that. And I do recommend that people just starting out, the reason I don't promote banishing so much is because, first of all, not everybody needs the same amount of banishing. People who are maybe a little more volatile emotionally, people who have histrionic disorders or bipolar, you definitely want to banish more often, just because you may attract that stuff to you because of that emotional volatility. So that's something to consider when you're doing that. Just be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell everybody else, what you're doing. You don't have to tell everybody else that you have like volatile emotions. So there you go. Let's see. And you know what? It's normal to question yourself too. It's normal to say, is this really a demon? Is this my higher self? It's very normal to question. And you should always question. I don't care how experienced you get or how many years you've been doing this, you will still question yourself and seek that validation. So, and you just get better at being able to discern as you do it more and more and more. Best way to get good at communicating with the demonic and learning whether or not it's the demonic is to continuously do it and practice every day or at least once a week. So, okay, let's see. Stopping negative energy feeders, the best way to do that is to banish and learn psychic self-defense. So Dion Fortune has a book called Psychic Self-Defense. You should read that. It's actually not bad. You do that with a lot of visualization, meditation, and energy work. And you will learn how to block anything negative trying to hurt you or trying to get at your energy to feed on it. There are symptoms too. And as a matter of fact, I think I have written a lot of this down in, I'm trying to think which books this is in. Necromantic Sacraments has a whole section on discernment. And I don't recall if I actually put a huge section on discernment in Drawing Down Belial, but I think it's in there. So yeah, you might want to read up on that. Let's see. In the beginning, do spirits communicate by placing thoughts in your head? They can. And I think if you have like a creative impulse, like creating the charging plate, Alina, that you're saying that you felt compelled to make, I think you should just go with that because it's not harmful. It's not harming anyone. So even if it isn't a spirit, making it doesn't hurt anything. You see what I'm saying? I would be more worried if you were hearing voices saying, you should kill yourself, or, you should go kill this person. Now, if you're getting stuff like that, I'd be like going, okay, no, that's a big no. Probably not a demon at that point. But if they're just wanting you to like make a charging plate or to dress a candle a certain way, or they give you words or a sigil in your mind, write all that stuff down, because time is going to tell you, and working with those tools that they have you make is going to tell you whether it's something that was from them, or if something, even if it was just from your higher self. Those make some of the best magical tools. That's all I got to say about that. So sometimes they do communicate by placing thoughts in your head. And if they're creative compulsions, definitely do it. I have a whole book about demonic creativity magic and Leviathan coming out here soon. And it talks about, following those artistic compulsions, because magicians are artists by our very nature. We yearn to create, whether it's our own reality or a new software program, or, you know, painting a picture, doing music, writing a book, whatever it is. Okay, so let's see. Lucia says she gets chills when they are in the room, but she's been out of the game for a bit. Well, and sometimes the hard part is like when you've been working with demons for a really long time, eventually, excuse me, that energy will fill the space. And it'll keep everything else out too. You're not going to get anything else out without permission and actually creating a path for that thing, that other thing to come in. But demonic energy will start surrounding your space, and you can actually become numb to it because it's so normal, and you won't realize it's not there until it's not there. I actually, I live in demonic presence, so my entire house feels a certain way. I had a friend bring a ceremonial magician into my house, and unbeknownst to me, when I was out of the room, he like started doing some commanding stuff, and I felt the change almost immediately. And I walked in there, and I all of a sudden got this feeling of anxiety, and I was like, what the hell? And when I went back in there, I was like, what the hell just happened? And my friend pulled me aside and said, I'm so sorry, but he just did a banishment in your temple. And I was like, son of a bitch. I kicked the guy out of my house and had to reestablish everything. And it took almost 2 weeks for things to get back to normal where I was comfortable. It's very, you can actually feel the change in energy, but you sometimes become numb to, or I don't know, it becomes normal. It becomes your new normal. And so you don't feel it as acutely as you did maybe when you first started. So, and if you do a lot more just, you know, energy cleansings throughout your house and banishing of anything that's not demonic, or just banishing of negativity is what I like to call it, you're going to probably feel, demonic energy more acutely that way. Because sometimes you still do have to do some negative energy because you bring that stuff onto yourself. Like if you're having a really bad day at work and you're sitting there stewing on it, or telling your spouse or your friend or whatever, what a horrible day you had, that can like start building up negative energy in your space. So it's always good to kind of clean out that negative energy every so often. Because a lot of the times, like when you're dwelling in demonic presence, especially, you're not going to feel the buildup of negative energy because it's going to be slow, and it's going to be coming from you, not from the demons. It's going to be all of your negative thoughts, building and building. So sometimes you have to just clean that out. I clean my house twice a year, whether it needs it or not. But each of you need to decide for yourselves how often you need to do it, because my needs and your needs are going to be totally different. You know, I had to do banishment of negativity more often when I was younger, and as opposed to now that I'm older. And it also depends how many people you bring into your space. If you've got someone really negative that lives with you, that can like really build up a lot of negativity too. So, so there's that. Let's see. Someone told me that you should never banish and let the energy build up, so every other ritual is more powerful. And with demonolatry, I think that that is true because you always have that demonic presence around you. So you don't often have to work as hard to bring that energy in to like fill the space, because it's kind of already there. Now you're just directing it. Or maybe you're like bringing in a specific aspect of it. So I do kind of agree with that. I don't banish demons though. See, that's the thing, is when I say banish, I'm talking negative energy. Anything very negative that is like negative to me gets kicked out of the space. The demonic presence stays. It isn't affected by that because I'm not banishing demons specifically. I'm not going in there and going, get the hell out. I'm not throwing them out of my house. I'm just taking all that negative energy and saying, you know what, we're going to selectively pull out the energy we don't want and get rid of it. So let's see. Yes, energy shields are good. Lucia mentioned those. Aaron, if Flurios is associated with passion, can we request or petition Flurios to calm down our passions? So that's going to be some self-work, I would think. That's going to be about you learning how to hold back or not react to things. So instead of asking the demon to just remove it for you, which demons might help, like, temper something, but that's not solving the problem. If you're not solving the internal problem, that where it originates, you're basically not putting out the fire. You're just putting some rocks around it so it stays contained in one spot, and maybe keeps it comfortable so it's not out of control. What you need to do is you need to look within yourself and find out if where that passion stems from, and what you can do to learn to control it better, or to cope with it better, or to channel it into something more productive. So, but the demon can help you with that by not doing it for you. See, this is the one thing where a lot of people, they just want the demon to come in and do it for them. They don't want to have to do any work. They're just like, I'm going to call on this demon. I'm going to ask for something. I'm going to give them something in return. Or I'm going to give them an offering. And then I'm just going to let it go, walk away, and just hope it just works all by itself. You can do that, but that's kind of like playing roulette. Like I said, it may work for a little while, but it's not going to be long lasting. It's kind of like, with money magic, for example. A lot of people just want to throw out, work with demons, throw something out there, and then just wait for the money to fall in their lap without doing anything. And sometimes that works. Sometimes you do get a windfall. You get a check that you weren't expecting, and you're like, oh, holy crap, it worked. The demon saved the day. But you know what? You're going to be broke in 3 weeks again. After you spend that money, it's gone. And then you're going to be back in the same position going, oh, I need to call the demon again for, another paycheck. Wouldn't you much rather prefer working with the demon to build up the income to that level where you're not constantly needing windfalls of money? If you can get to that point, then you don't have to do that anymore. And then you just kind of keep going up those really steep steps. So Aaron, that's kind of the answer to your question. You can talk to Florios about it. You can request his help in it, but he's still going to expect you to do that self-work in order to get the lasting results that you're probably going to want. Lucia says, my room feels like I have been away for weeks, and I got home and felt like my space, and it felt like my space, and I have 4 altars in my room. It's probably because you've done so much work in that room. And yeah, because it's just surrounding. It's just, you're living in that demonic presence. So it's still there. But yeah, you'll notice it more. Like when you leave for like a couple, 2-3 weeks, go on vacation and come back, you'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot what this felt like. So, okay, next. It's how we've, Neophyte says, it's how we have come to associate negativity with negative energy, which when actually negative ions help fight depression. Okay, so there's that. But doesn't that naturally, I think negative ions naturally occur in nature though. So I think when we're talking negative energy, we're talking about things that harm us. And so when your intent is to shove all of that out of your space, I don't think you're really getting rid of the negative ions that actually exist in nature, because I don't think that it's not harming you. It is about your intent, your mindset, how you think. A lot of that, because remember, the universe is what you make it. The universe is mental. One of the wisdom bits from the Kybalion is the universe is mental. One of their little, what would you call that? A precept? Let's see. Lucia says she just banishes negative energy with her blessed water. Yeah, that's one of the easiest ways to do it. Mix salt and water, bless it in the name of Leviathan and Belial, and sprinkle it around the house. Okay, let's see. Neophyte says running water releases negative ions, and that is why we feel so good in the shower or when bathing in the ocean. Frankincense releases negative ions too, by the way. So there you go. That's probably so it's probably a good thing that one of the reasons frankincense is used to maybe get rid of get rid of things in the vicinity of you that you don't want in your space. But even though it's releasing negative ions, that's not the same thing as negative energy, negative mental energy. Maybe we should make that distinction. Maybe I shouldn't just say negativity, because yeah, that is less specific, isn't it? Negative mental energy is what you're trying to get rid of. Negative psychic energy. So, Abhaya, you said you put a sigil under your pillow during sleep and you felt really exhausted in the morning. That can sometimes happen if maybe you didn't sleep well because you were maybe dream walking or in REM. If you have like something like a Fitbit, you can like actually see the moments when you're in REM, how often you're in REM while you're sleeping, how much of it's light sleep, how many times you woke up. There could be a lot of things. I would look at scientific explanations first. First of all, is the room too hot? Is the room too cold? Is there something about your sleeping arrangement? Maybe the bed's not comfortable. Maybe you need to turn your mattress. Have you changed the sheets? Because sometimes people don't sleep. You don't realize it, but you're not sleeping as well. So, I mean, there's different things that you should look at. First of all, is there a lot going on in your life that's causing you a lot of stress? We don't always sleep as well when we're stressed out. So I would look at like scientific explanations first, and then try to eliminate those before jumping to, it's the demon and the sigil that's causing this restlessness. Always look at what can be explained, and then what can't be explained, and then try to figure it out, because you could be working with a demon that is maybe draining to your energy. Not all demons, like we have our own energy, they have their own energy, and sometimes it works well together and it meshes really well, and other times they cause a response in us that we weren't expecting. Like there are certain types of demonic forces that will trigger the fight or flight response in people. And that's something that you have to consider. Like sometimes when you feel like terrified when you're working with a particular spirit, it's not that you're actually terrified or that they mean you any harm. It's that their resonance, that energy that they resonate at, is somehow triggering that in you. It's triggering an emotional response. And that can happen sexually too. There are certain demons that their energy can actually trigger a sexual response. It's not that it is sexual. It's just that it triggers that in a physical being. And so we have to learn the difference between that too. So, okay. Let's see. Neophyte says, yes, exactly. Also, cleansing baths have been used for millennia. So all forms of purifying with water can have a scientific base. Exactly. Oh, I agree with that. Absolutely. So yeah, because they're usually when you do like a cleansing before a major ritual, you go in and you actually take a bath soaked in herbs. So, or essential oils or whatever you're doing. So yeah, and has been a practice for a very, very long time. And asperging space, taking water with branches of a certain type of plant or sprigs of a certain type of plant, and asperging the area by, blessing the place with the water on that plant. You use the plant to disperse it. So very common practice in a lot of old magic. So yeah, exactly. Neophyte mentions uncrossing baths and hoodoo and voodoo too. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you know what? We're coming up on the hour, you guys, and I should probably get going, but I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and you will see me back again next month what did I say we were discussing next month? I need my thing again. I keep forgetting. I'm telling you, my brain's going 50 miles an hour here. Or a million miles a minute, whichever. Will demons lie or hurt you, and why? That is next month's video. So I will see you guys then. Have a great rest of your week, and I hope you have a wonderful May, and I will see you toward the end of May.